You know, we made a similar video like this when Zach Kassian decided to return to pro hockey. So, in today's video, we are talking about another former Montreal Canadiens and Vancouver Canucks legend. He also happened to be a legend of other teams, the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, the St. Louis Blues, the Buffalo Sabres, the Capitals, the Boston Bruins. He has been everywhere. And of course, you know who we're talking about. We're talking about Jaroslav Halak himself, because when it comes to the pride of Slovakia, one of the best guys in the NHL, in the goaltending scene, under 6 feet tall, in, let's just say, the past 20 years or so, Jaroslav Halak has made his bread and butter just being that guy. He was initially battling it out with Carey Price for the starting job in Montreal. He eventually went over to St. Louis. He went over to Buffalo, Washington, as we had said, all these teams in between. And of course, the Vancouver Canucks stint he had in 21-22, which was admittedly kind of awful. But now, we have ourselves news from Slovakia themselves that there is a tentative agreement for Jaroslav Halak to sign with their team. Take a look at this article from, when was it, 2 days ago? That's when it was, yeah. HC Slovan Bratislava, shortly before the end of their transfer period, administratively delayed the possible arrival of goaltender Jaroslav Halak. And included is a picture of him representing the Slovak national team at the Olympics, nonetheless, so good to see the roots being represented here. Kind of funny, though, the image is cropped in a weird way, like they have the blocker and the border kind of going off to the side there. It's very interesting, but this is the update from Slovan Bratislava and Jaroslav Halak. Whether and when Halak will actually play for the Extraliga, which is the Slovak League, will be decided in the next few days. The player himself is currently in Boston and could arrive in Bratislava at the beginning of February and March. I appreciate Slovan's interest in my services, Halak said. It's the club from which I bounce back to great overseas hockey. That is also why I would like to be absolutely correct and open to the club management, my future teammates, and last but not least, to Slovan's fans at the moment. I realize that I have not stood in goal in a competitive match for more than 10 months, even though I've tried to keep myself in good physical condition all this time. We have agreed with the management of Slovan that I will come to the club and sign a proper contract only if I pass through a medical examination without any problems, and that my body will confirm that it is 100% ready to undergo the load in the matches that await the club at the peak of the season, said Jaroslav Halak on the transfer. And this right here is really admirable. It takes a ballsy kind of athlete to go out there and say straight up, yeah, I haven't played a pro hockey game since 22-23, 10 months ago. And it's very fair to admit that I am not really as physically in shape as I was back then. So I'm only going to join this team if I pass a medical examination without any problems, and if my body is 100% ready to go. That, you want to talk about betting on yourself, that is betting on yourself, baby. Jaroslav Halak is taking the big up Sigma grind set attitude at this and pretty much admitting that he will only play if he feels that he is ready. And even if he's gone out there and tried to keep himself in good physical condition, he acknowledges that not playing in 10 months is very, very detrimental. So this is a really good sign from a guy who has been such a pro his entire career. The article then goes over and talks about the career. It talks about he was born in 1985, and then he played in 04 to the QMJHL and everything. He went overseas, and then he was a longtime supporter of Slovakia's national team. His career in the NHL, or not in the NHL, excuse me, with that national team, started in the U18 competition, and then at the World Championship competition, he was there. If Jaroslav Halak decides to continue his successful career with Slovan Bratislava in the coming days, there will be nothing to prevent the fans of Slovan and Slovak hockey from seeing him in the goal again within a few days. So, if we go over to Halak and his junior days, he was with Slovan Bratislava back with this league in 03-04. So that was kind of the roots being established here in the career that would come to be Jaroslav Halak's. And then if you talk about even during the lockout, he did not play there. He played for a completely different team in the German league. So Halak hasn't really been a part of this organization in 20 years, essentially. So seeing him make his grand return, and only make his grand return upon his completion of what's probably going to be a vigorous physical examination, this is kind of a really cool homecoming, and especially for fans of all these NHL teams that have seen Jaro Halak come through. This guy is one of the biggest journeymen in the NHL, and I think everybody kind of remembers during that time when he was battling it out with Carey Price for that starting job with Montreal, he was arguably like top-tier caliber goaltender right there. He was one of the best, and sure, while he never got himself like any Vezina nominations or anything, he was still consistently one of these top guys, and he carried that over to other teams. .926 save percentage in half the seasons played in St. Louis. He had a .930 in his ending stint in 2013-14 with the Capitals. His Islander stint was admittedly not the best, but then he did bounce back very nicely against the Boston Bruins. Half a season played in 2018-19, a .922 save percentage there, splitting the load with, I believe it was Tuukka Rask. Was it? Yeah, it was Tuukka Rask. He was the better goaltender that year. Also, look at that, Dan Vladar, a part of this organization as well. Then his Vancouver days came, and I'm going to be honest, the 21-22 season was not kind to any Vancouver Canuck, and especially in the goaltending front. Thatcher Demko was overplayed, Spencer Martin was a flash in the pan, Jaro Halak was not good, and Mikey DiPietro just did not have a good Vancouver Canucks tenure. So this season, I mean, just looking at the Canucks guys who produced, that was Miller's 99-point year, but other than that, like, everybody else was just kind of meh. So Canucks are a long ways removed from 2021-2022, aren't they? In fact, just going over some of the names, who's still here? You've got the big three up there in points. Yes, you've got the next two, Garl and Besser. And then other than that, I mean, Myers, Höglander, and that's it. Noah Juulsen is over here. Okay, yeah, Noah Juulsen and then Thatcher Demko. That is essentially it. Everybody else, I mean, no, Guillaume Brisebois is injured, so he doesn't really count. Tucker Pullman also injured as well, so he doesn't really count. But if you do the numbers right here, look at that. Brad Richardson, also a Canuck. What a throwback to the past, eh? That's like 7, 8 guys, if you include Demko, that are still on this Vancouver team from just 2 years ago. So pretty big turnover, and Jaro Halak, having not such a great season himself with the Canucks, definitely was in that conversation. His New York Rangers stint the year after was actually a tad better, .903 save percentage, and a 10-9-5 record, 272 goals against 2. He was splitting the load here, I believe, with Igor Shesterkin, and yeah, there you go. Those are the only two guys that had suited up for New York goaltending last year. But for now, Jaro Halak, despite all the ups and downs, despite the debatably poor seasons he may have had in the past few years, he is going home to Slovan Bratislava in the Slovak League, and he is not going to sign, he's not going to play unless he passes a physical test. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this Montreal, Vancouver, St. Louis, New York, Boston, Washington, Buffalo legend in Jaroslav Halak and how he has returned to pro hockey after all this time. Thoughts in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.